haunted highway. Emily had always enjoyed long drives. They provided an escape from the monotony of daily life, a chance to clear her mind and breathe freely. That Friday evening was no different. She had just finished a grueling week at her job, and the open road beckoned her like a siren's call. She packed an overnight bag, filled up her tank, and set her sights on a remote cabin her friend had recommended, a place far removed from the chaos of the city. The sun was setting as she drove down the deserted highway, the sky a canvas of deep oranges and purples. The radio crackled with static before she found a classic rock station, the familiar tunes putting her at ease. As darkness enveloped the landscape, Emily switched on her headlights, the beams cutting through the growing gloom. About an hour into her journey, she noticed a sign that read, "Scenic route, next exit." Curious and in no hurry, she decided to take it. The narrow, winding road led her through dense forests and past tranquil lakes, the moon casting eerie shadows on the pavement. It was peaceful, almost too peaceful. She hadn't seen another car for miles. As she rounded a particularly sharp bend, her headlights caught a glimpse of something on the side of the road. It was a hitchhiker, a young woman in a tattered dress, her thumb extended, a desperate look in her eyes. Emily's instincts told her to keep driving, but something in the woman's expression made her slow down and pull over. The woman approached the car cautiously. "Thank you so much for stopping," she said, her voice trembling. "I've been out here for hours. Can you take me to the next town?" "Sure," Emily replied, unlocking the passenger door. "Hop in." The woman introduced herself as Sarah and explained that her car had broken down a few miles back. As they drove, Emily noticed that Sarah seemed on edge, constantly glancing out the window and into the rearview mirror. "Is everything okay?" Emily asked. "It's just, I feel like we're being followed," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. Emily laughed nervously. "There's no one out here but us." Moments later, the car's radio flickered and died. Static filled the air, followed by a chilling silence. Suddenly, the car's headlights dimmed, and the engine began to sputter. Emily's heart raced as she struggled to maintain control of the vehicle. "What's happening?" Sarah's voice was filled with panic. "I don't know," Emily replied, her knuckles white as she gripped the steering wheel. Then, in the rearview mirror, Emily saw it, a pair of headlights rapidly approaching. The car behind them seemed to come out of nowhere, closing the distance at an alarming rate. "Who is that?" Emily gasped. "I don't know, but we can't let them catch us," Sarah said, her eyes wide with terror. Emily floored the gas pedal, but her car seemed to fight against her. The pursuing vehicle's headlights grew brighter and brighter until they were almost blinding. Suddenly, the pursuing car veered off the road and disappeared into the darkness. Emily and Sarah both let out a sigh of relief, but it was short-lived. The engine gave one final sputter before dying completely, leaving them stranded in the middle of nowhere. "We need to get out of here," Sarah said urgently. "There's a cabin not far from here," Emily said, remembering her original destination. "We can go there and call for help." The two women grabbed a flashlight from the glove compartment and started walking down the dark, deserted road. The forest around them seemed to close in, every rustle and snap of a twig amplifying their fear. After what felt like an eternity, they saw the faint outline of the cabin up ahead. They quickened their pace, relief flooding their senses as they reached the door. Emily fumbled with the key, her hands shaking, but finally managed to unlock it. They rushed inside, slamming the door behind them. Emily found an old landline phone and picked up the receiver, but there was no dial tone. "Great," she muttered, slamming it back down. "We should stay here until morning," Sarah suggested. "It'll be safer." They sat in silence, the only light coming from a flickering candle they had found on the mantel. The hours dragged on, the oppressive silence only broken by the occasional creak of the old cabin settling. Just as they were beginning to relax, there was a loud bang on the door. Both women jumped, their eyes locked on the source of the sound. The bang came again, more insistent this time. "Who's there?" Emily called out, her voice shaking. No answer. Then the door burst open, and a chilling wind swept through the cabin. Standing in the doorway was a figure shrouded in darkness. Emily shined her flashlight, revealing the same man from the car that had chased them earlier. His eyes were empty, void of any emotion. "You shouldn't have taken this road," he said, his voice echoing in the small cabin. Sarah screamed and ran towards the back door, but the man moved with unnatural speed, blocking her path. Emily grabbed a heavy lamp and swung it at him, but it passed through his body as if he were made of smoke. "You can't escape," he said, his form flickering like a bad TV signal. "This road is cursed. It doesn't let anyone leave." Emily and Sarah exchanged a terrified glance. They had to get out of there, but how? The man's eyes bore into them, and Emily felt a sudden clarity. She grabbed Sarah's hand and bolted for the car, hoping against hope that it would start. They ran through the dark forest, the man's laughter echoing behind them. When they reached the car, Emily fumbled with the keys, her hands trembling. Miraculously, the engine roared to life. "Go, go!" Sarah shouted. Emily didn't need to be told twice. She slammed her foot on the gas, and the car sped down the road. In the rearview mirror, she saw the figure standing in the middle of the road, watching them. As they drove, the road seemed to stretch endlessly before them. The same trees, the same bends, repeating over and over. Emily's grip tightened on the wheel, a sense of dread washing over her. "Look!" Sarah pointed to the horizon, where the first light of dawn was breaking. "We're going to make it," Emily said, relief flooding her voice. But as they rounded the next bend, their relief turned to horror. The man was standing in the middle of the road again, his eyes glowing with an eerie light. Emily swerved to avoid him, but the car skidded off the road, crashing into a tree. Dazed, Emily looked around. The man was gone. She turned to check on Sarah, but the passenger seat was empty. Panic set in as she realized she was alone. Stumbling out of the car, Emily looked around the deserted forest. "Sarah?" she called out, but there was no response. She started walking down the road, hoping to find help, but the landscape seemed to warp and twist around her. Hours passed, or maybe it was minutes. Time had lost all meaning. Eventually, she saw headlights approaching. It was her car, and inside, she saw herself, with Sarah sitting beside her. The car drove past without stopping, disappearing into the darkness. Emily collapsed to her knees, realization dawning on her. She was trapped in a never-ending loop, a ghost on this cursed road. Thank you for watching this spine-chilling episode of True Terror Files. If you enjoyed this story and want more real-life horror experiences, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Have you ever had a terrifying encounter on the road? Share your stories in the comments below. Until next time, stay safe and beware of the haunted highways.